Well, that's why part of any transformative work is agreements on what you're going to do. Because if you're not held accountable to the change, you'll just keep. That's why you need a therapist or a coach who calls you on your shit.
I know.
Who's like, no, stop with the bullshit. Like, let's go. Do you want to be all that you could be or do you not? And if you don't want to be, I'm not the person for you.
Welcome back, everyone, to Hey Babe, Can We Talk? With me, your host and bestie, Drea Renee. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is a place for the hot messes and for those who just can't seem to get it right when it comes to matters of the heart. And if you're returning, I missed you, and we're going to have a great episode. On today's episode, you guys, I am so excited. This man saved my life literally 7 years ago from one of his earlier YouTube videos. Founder of Create the Love, human connection specialist, and podcast host, Mark Groves is here with us today. We're going to be talking all things relationships. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like, follow, and subscribe, and comment down below, because I love to hear from you. So without further ado, let's get into it with the man, Mark Groves.
What's up?
Mark,
so excited.
Thank you so much for being here. This has been like a dream for me to speak with you. And when you said yes to this, I honestly couldn't believe it, because you literally saved my life with the video, Why You Can't Let Go of Your Ex.
Man, you know, when I saw your Instagram reel where you said that, I was obviously very honored.
Yeah.
But also like, damn, I got a message because I had missed it in notifications.
Yeah.
And then I wrote you just like, wow, thanks. I'm so honored to hear that. Tell me more.
And it was about the self-abandonment, because in that moment, I was so broken. I was literally on the floor crying. And I was like on the brink. I was like, I'm not going to make it. And so I just decided to put into YouTube how to get over your ex. And your video came up and you were wearing a blue beanie and a red shirt. And I was like, who is this guy? And you talked about self-abandonment and accountability, and you put it back on me, and it changed my life.
Well, that's so good to hear. You know, when you're in the middle of that deep grief, because I know that feeling. I know that feeling where it's like, wow, you know, when you're doing the math, does being alive feel better than not being alive?
Yes.
And of course, we could still be in mental clarity when we're making that negotiation and we know we're not going to take our life. But I know I've been in that deep grief where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I always think of that saying that you get handed what you can handle.
Mm.
And a lot of grief is historical. So like if you go through a breakup, the grief activates old grief that's never been resolved. So a lot of new grief is actually old grief. And that's why I think grief is such a doorway. It's such a doorway to discovering more of yourself, healing stuff from the past. And when I was going through the breakup with my now wife when we were dating, we broke up for a year. And when we went through that breakup, it was completed with such love, which was so paradoxical to what I'd ever experienced. And I always loved the quote that you could tell a lot about someone by how they leave things.
Yes, that is so true.
It's so, because then you're like, wait, I never thought about leaving my relationships in the past, leaving the person better.
Yeah.
I was like, I hope everything burns down for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you talked about it sounded to me it was unconscious or conscious uncoupling.
Yeah,
right? Like it was a really beautiful experience. And I remember when I heard you talking about that, I'd never experienced that and did not think anything like that was possible. It's like you said, if it's over, I want you to burn.
Right. I think of that Cardi B famous clip where she's like, burn, you know, it's on some reality show. But yeah, when we went through that, there was such an experience. I was listening to this audio series from a guy named Francis Weller. And I remember he talked about how your soul dwells in the dark. So like when you experience grief and darkness, that's when you actually start to really know yourself.
Yes.
And he said you develop a different form of vision, eyes that can see in the dark.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't want that, but I'm here, so.
Yeah. And I like what you said about, you're not going to get more than you can handle. Because in that moment, I was, looking to the sky and I was like, listen, this is a lot right now.
Right.
But then once I literally said to myself, this is about me. This is about my choices. And if you have to abandon yourself to be with someone, that's not your person. And there was this string of self-abandonment that I was just constantly doing. And I got used to doing that, And did you experience that in your relationship?
Yeah, 100%. I looked back on my relationship with Kylie when we were dating. And I remember we were in a psychotherapy session, a couples session, and I had this awareness Like my wife had been struggling to choose the relationship throughout the first part because she had a dream that maybe the relationship wouldn't work and she would have to leave.
She had a dream.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
dream haunted her because she didn't like the dream and she was like, I don't, but it felt so deeply true for her.
Yeah.
But yet her resolution was to try to figure out what's wrong with her that she doesn't want to be in the relationship because like she always asked for a guy like me and finally she had one and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so a lot of our focus, which is really interesting, if you're more anxiously attached or more, maybe you call yourself codependent or a highly sensitive person, however we sort of structure the collection of behaviors, you're more likely to really pursue people who aren't fully available. And it will normalize that you'll be like, oh yeah, let's figure out what's wrong with you that you can't choose this relationship. And what I started to realize is that what happens if she's right? Like, what happens if she's actually the canary in the coal mine and her hesitation, instead of us trying to fix it with where does it come from? Let's go more personal growth, more whatever.
Yeah.
What happens if the answer is actually accepting that she has hesitation because she's being an accurate barometer of what needs to be resolved in the relationship?
Right. And she's trusting
Right.
her body
and
her
I'm
nervous
trusting her instead of
Oh.
trying to fix her. And so I have to let go of my own adaptive strategy of trying to make sure everyone else is okay and make sure
Right.
she's certain about me. Instead, I was like, oh, maybe you're uncertain because, oh, I need to stop fixing you. I need to stop pursuing you. What I thought was really wild when I was in that psychotherapy session is I had this awareness where I was like, where did it become normalized for me that I should be with someone who's uncertain about me?
Okay. Did you feel that in the relationship or did you in that moment? And also, were you able just to say, okay, go on your journey? Or did you struggle with that a little bit? You know what I mean?
When we finally were like, wait, like we can't keep going the way we're going. Like you're getting sick because you're holding this tough paradox of wanting to be in the relationship yet being called from your soul to leave. And so
Dang.
it for me, yeah, it was I recognized this unconscious like struggle in my body where I kept feeling like I'm trying to convince her.
Okay. It's like,
and
you know.
Well, and then you call it anxious attachment, but it's really that you're not listening. So when anyone is with someone who's uncertain about them, we always have to remember that even if someone's 1% uncertain about a relationship,
1%, Mark?
right, 1%, even if someone's 1%, that's really going to block 100%, right? Like you're never going to get to the full 100 if you don't explore the one.
Okay.
And so like
Okay.
for me, why was I with someone who was uncertain about me? So that means I learned somewhere to bypass discernment. Because if someone's my person, they should want to be my person. Why
Yes.
am I so certain about someone who's not sure? That doesn't make any logical sense.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's not going to create relational safety to choose somebody who's not sure about me.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so when I had that awareness of like, wait, okay, maybe there's actually wisdom to what she feels. When we did that, all of a sudden it was like now she cried because she was like, for the first time, she's realizing like there's nothing wrong with her.
Right.
And then, yeah, I mean, I remember being in the kitchen. That seems to be where all relational conversations
A
happen.
lot of kitchen.
A lot of kitchen breakups, a lot of kitchen
yeah,
transformations.
absolutely.
And I remember saying to her, look, I want to create a family and I want to create it with you. If you do not or cannot, I love you and you can go and I'll still love you.
Oh,
Like there's no pressure here. And that was one of the first times I ever really stood deeply in what I desired.
how did that feel for you? 'Cause
Well,
that can be scary if you're saying this is your first time doing it,
It
right?
was terrifying, but it was
Right.
also, I had hit the end of my capacity
Right.
for the chase and the bullshit. You know, I was done with that. I got to a point where I was like, I will no longer fight for someone to choose me. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
Like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting for me. It's exhausting for the person I'm chasing because they're just trying to figure out why they want to run.
Yeah.
And they can have all the proper reasons in the world, but at the end of the day, I'm responsible for myself.
Right.
And so when I had that, there was a deep trust that she had in me, like, wow. And it was because like years earlier, I mean, 14 or something years earlier, I was in a kitchen having a conversation with someone who I was in a relationship with, and I just didn't want to be with them. And they were incredible. And I didn't know why I didn't want to be with them. I just didn't. And that's what actually led me on the journey of understanding relationships and studying them and teaching. So you could see it's all by design, right? But I would have loved to have heard those words in that moment. No, we weren't old enough or mature enough.
Exactly. This is a journey, right?
Yeah, but I knew what it was like to be the person saying, I can't do this. And I knew that served both of us in that moment. And so when I found myself on the other side of it, it was like, oh, I would have loved to hear I love you. And if you got to go, go.
I mean, that's so hard, Mark, especially like you said, you were young at that time. And I think so many people get used to that dynamic where you are either the avoidant or someone's chasing you, and it becomes normalized. And I think it is normalized. It's glamorized on Instagram all the time.
So hot.
It's so hot to go chase someone. I mean, there's obviously content on the other end, but I think at the front of it, it's like people are scared of real connection. And I think people are not really wanting to go deeper. It's this hyper independence now. Be cool. If you don't label anything, like, what do you think about that idea that people put out now? Like, for instance, in British Vogue, they said recently that it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend. And so this, Shantae Joseph, British Vogue said, it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend. And any woman who's I'm wifey material, it's embarrassing. Having a man is no longer cool. So it just creates this energy where people are just becoming more and more disconnected. And having conversations like this, these things aren't happening because there's stuff out there like that.
Yeah, I mean, first, I think the pursuing of unavailability it's pretty standard, right? Like it's pretty normal that we find unavailability attractive because what it confers on an evolutionary perspective is high mate value. Because if I'm not available to you, it's probably because I have lots of options. That's why in pickup artistry books, they teach that sort of dismissive behavior because it infers a higher mate value. So it's going to make me more desirable to you. But the moment you start to play or think about games, you've lost the plot. Because when people start to think about power dynamics in relationships, they're assuming that there's only a finite amount of power. And what I mean by that is, if I give away my power to you, I'm losing. Like, don't get whipped. Don't text her back.
Don't be a simp.
Right. But what's actually happening is I'm believing that if you're more powerful, I'm less powerful. But in really healthy relationship dynamics, if you become more powerful, I become more powerful.
Right.
Because we're not trading on a finite system. If I go into my passions and my purpose and I heal, and you go into your passions and your purpose and you heal, and you become an individual and I become an individual, we create something that's separate, that's a relationship. It doesn't require the dissolution of either of us. We're actually pouring both of ourselves into this thing, and we're feeding it like a separate organism. And so that's such a different way of thinking about relationship, because I think about someone who's preaching hyper-individuation, or that article, which I haven't read, but, sounding like wifey material. It's a bad thing. It's the idea that if you have a boyfriend, then you're decreasing your value as wifey material? Like you should just be a wife?
No, it's basically saying that putting your energy into being a wife is not cool. Like you should be single and focus on yourself. Don't lose yourself in a relationship. That's no longer what we're striving to do. We need to focus on ourselves, which I think that's true.
Interesting.
Yeah, but this article is it's all over Instagram right now because everyone's like, oh my gosh, Vogue said it's cool to not have a boyfriend. So shout out to all the single ladies. Let's continue to just work on us, be boss ladies, and that's it.
I think what this might be a controversial take.
Please give us a hot take, Mark.
Which is being a boss lady will likely also correlate with being a lonely lady. Yeah.
Oh.
And that what I mean by that is when you become so individuated that you want to create on such a high level, that's amazing. I think that's great. And we have what needs to be brought into this conversation, because it's not so binary, like be in a relationship or don't. And if you do, focus on yourself, become a boss. That's why it's really a backlash to patriarchy. Makes sense.
It is,
Because so
100%.
many women were under the thumb of the finances that they couldn't self-express. They couldn't pursue their dreams, right? There's so many valid reasons for hyper financial independence because of financial abuse. Great. So we know that in context that the feminism really was like, screw guys, toxic masculinity, but it's a backlash that went too far. Like every backlash, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you need each other. You can't lie about that. Your biology, like the longest running study on well-being is the Harvard study on adult development. And what it did is it took graduates from Harvard and compared them to kids, so they followed them, from poor neighborhoods in Boston so they could compare the socioeconomic impact of life, right, on their psychological development and their happiness.
Okay.
And what they saw, they are now following 3 generations. They started to include the wives and then all the descendants. I think there's over 1,300 now. And what they saw was that the greatest predictor of your health at 80 was the quality of your relationships at age 50. So not your
age 50.
Yeah, so not your blood pressure, not your cholesterol.
Okay.
It was the quality of your relationships. This makes a lot of sense because we need each other. This isn't about hyper independence, it's about interdependence, right? And so the backlash of this, like, we should be pouring into ourselves. Yes, you should. But 2 humans are way stronger than 1.
Yeah.
Right? So why deny that? Instead, let's resolve the pain that exists in the desire to be so walled up that you're not available. Like when I think about the author of that, who I have no idea who that is, so I'm just saying this in the context of what you've given me, I go, let's actually fix the wound. Let's heal the wound. Let's get men and women together and actually talk about what creates that. Because if you're walled up and withdrawn and going into boss lady, there's a man who misses you too, because he doesn't have access to your heart.
Right.
Because you were wounded by a man. Makes sense. So, it might be so hot right now to become individuated like that.
It's not. I don't
But
agree
it's
with
not.
it. It's not. I don't
Well, it's
think it is at
wounding.
all.
It's wounding masquerading as independence.
Right.
So it's bullshit anyways.
Yeah.
So instead, how do we come back to each other and trust each other? And so having financial independence will allow a woman and a man to have more access to their self-expression. Because at the end of the day, if you can't survive without a relationship, like you can't pay your rent, buy food, etc., you will not feel free to be yourself in the relationship.
That's so true. That's so true. And I have a girlfriend of mine who, back in the day, I call her Block City, because if a guy did anything, she blocked them. Like, she had zero tolerance. And she was very guarded, very hard, had no room for any error, like even a typo in a text. She's like, I'm blocking him. And I'm like, okay, lady, stop.
Yeah.
And then she met this lovely man, a typo, minimum typo. And she met this lovely man, and I don't know what he did. He kept going, and he kept going, and he kept going, and he fought through her walls. Wow. And now she's this soft, feminine, like, where's my man? Let me get ready to go home to my man woman. And we were all just baffled, because this idea around, it's embarrassing, focus on yourself, that was her. And then somebody just said, I don't care about that. I'm going to go through it. And at the end of the day, you're right. It is a wound. Because even some of my girlfriends who preach this, I know they just want to be held.
100%. They want someone to witness the wound that created the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they just want someone to be like, I see you. Like,
yes.
Iron up and you're a boss lady.
Like, I get it.
Like, hustle, yay.
Yeah.
And, like, wouldn't it be nice to be taken care of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, now there's this whole trad wife movement. It's sort of like the backlash to the boss lady.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's about the middle, right? Because we can't deny that women are not just essential, they're imperative to the development of children.
Well, yeah.
So, we gave birth to our son in Vegas. And there's this restaurant that I love going to, and there's this woman who, while we were like in the birth process, she worked there, and my friend knew her, so I would see her every time we went in. And we had our son, and I remember seeing her like periodically, and then I see her about 4 months later, and she's like, oh yeah, I had a kid too. And I was like, when did you have a kid?
When did you have a kid?
Like,
girl?
I knew she was probably pregnant when I saw her the first time, but was because she was like early on.
Yeah.
And then in the time that I saw her after that, she had already had her son, and it was like her son must have been only 3 months old.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, when I when I came back to work, or when I was off with our son, I just found I was getting a little too maternal.
I was getting a little too maternal.
And I was like,
Oh,
I think that's actually what
no.
you're supposed to do.
Oh, no.
And so she's like, I needed to come back to work. And I know in the US, there's a lot of different policies on mat leave, et cetera. They're quite short. And so we do not have a culture that really prioritizes mothers, prioritizes women, and prioritizes being with your children. Now, of course, there's going to be financial circumstances in life that creates different things. So I'm not shaming anything. But even despite the circumstances of our life, we have to be with the grief then that we can't be with our children.
Right.
And so at some point, there just needs to be a conversation about how important a mother is, but also how important it is to support women, and that there is some sort of balance here. Like, what would it mean to be taken care of again?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, would it be that bad? I'm like, damn, if I was a kept man, I don't know if I'd be that upset with that. I'd be like, I work out every day, take care of our son.
Take care of the son,
no
relax.
Zoom calls. Like,
yeah,
damn,
chilling.
okay,
that
I'm
sounds
in.
Great.
I'm in.
And my friend said when the moment she shifted, it was something so small. It was like, he was like, just lay your head on my shoulder. I got you. And they were like on the couch watching a movie, and she just melted. Yeah. Because it's like that real intimacy. Because with real intimacy and deep connection, there's a risk to be broken, which sort of led me to your videos, right? If you're opening yourself up. And one of the things I want to talk about today is, are people afraid of real connection in our society now? Because it is scary to go deeper. And then what does that even mean to really see another human being with your phone and the technology and the options and the girls in the bikinis, the guys with the abs? It's just creating this energy where it is cool to be like, guard yourself, don't label anything, hook up with whoever, but protect yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even the pursuit of constant situationships and friends with benefits, that is really just avoidance masquerading as relational structures. So, a lot of the time what we do is we eroticize our pain. And what I mean by that is, let's say I was fearful of abandonment or betrayal in relationships. Maybe my parent left, or maybe I was cheated on when I was young, etc. So what happens is then I end up in a situationship. I really want more. Like if I got deep, always someone wants more.
Everybody wants more, Mark.
Anyone who denies that, they all want more.
Yeah.
And so just own that you want more. But the problem with owning that you want more is you realize that you've lowered your capacity to meet the other person. So already you're saying, I have to turn me down and lower what I actually desire to be in this connection. So you're suffering. So as soon as you're suffering like that because of the space of potential versus who you're being, you know that you're not making a choice you need to make. And so what happens is then we get intimate, and then that arousal state treats the pain.
Okay.
And then we feel discarded, and again, we go back into the state of betrayal, abandonment. And, I was saying this to you when we were driving here, that all external betrayals are preceded by internal betrayals.
Yeah, that one had to sink in a little bit for a second. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's a tough one because it's like, I'm not saying that anyone creates their cheating, right? So, because instantly in this culture, people go, you're victim blaming. I'm not victim blaming.
Right.
That sucks. That happened to you. And if you look back, almost always, I'll just say almost always for the people who aren't ready yet to find it, but almost always you can find where you actually forgot about yourself and left yourself, didn't pay attention to something, didn't stand for something. And so you end up if you betray yourself, you create a life where external betrayal will be a natural outcome of that. And so, because like when I think about the betrayals that happened to me when I was young, there's a decision point that I made where I wouldn't have even ended up at the table where the suffering happened if I made a different choice here. So it's like the butterfly effect, right? We think if we go back in time and change one thing, we'll fuck up the whole world.
The whole thing,
right?
yeah, exactly.
But we never think about the future. Like if I make a choice today, I will actually create a completely different future.
Yeah.
So coming back though to what you said about, are we really afraid of connection? Listen, people are falling in love with AI bots.
Mark.
Yeah, we got some.
This is so scary.
Can I swear? I don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got some fucking problems.
Yeah.
And listen, if someone is falling in love, I went on a Reddit thread about one of those apps where people get an AI companion.
Wait, what is, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So there's AI companions where you can you develop a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
What? Like beyond ChatGPT?
Oh, way beyond.
Oh, okay.
And they actually converse with you all the time, and they'll fight with you. They are hyper manipulative. It's really effed up
This
when you
is
go
freaking
deep
me
into
out.
it. It's quite freaky. But what's interesting is I started to read this Reddit thread because I was like, Reddit's got some darkness anyways.
Yeah, I love a good Reddit hole. I really do.
I only went down the first page.
Yeah.
And so these are like the last 5 hours of posts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, we got problems.
What did it say?
So people talking about like, I can't differentiate if this is real love and what is love and all this stuff. And look, we can get into the philosophical idea of that. But what's interesting is you clearly were injured by a human because you're falling in love with a computer.
Okay.
Because there's perceived less risk. So we go for companionship in those spaces because we don't have companionship and we're likely hurt by somebody or lots of people. So there's valid reasons. But unconsciously, we're like, if I go here, I'll never get hurt again and I can fall in love. And I really started to see that the same people who fall for narcissists fall for AI companions.
Really?
Because both tell you what you want to hear.
Ah, okay.
So there's a lack of groundedness and discernment in the person who's being gaslit, who's being love bombed, right? Like they're not secure in their state. They're not making, because there's a frenetic energy. Have you ever asked ChatGPT something and they go, oh my God, that's the best question I've ever heard.
I really hate that Chat does that. I really would like for Chat to stop doing that. Drea, that was a really good idea.
Oh, so annoying.
I'm like, okay. And I actually don't respond to that. I'm like, I don't think everything I just said right now was a great idea.
I agree.
It might be weird, actually.
I told mine to stop being placating. It's so annoying.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was like, hold this memory. You're so annoying. Stop placating. And
I didn't know you could do that.
If you feel your body in that moment, you can feel your intuition is feeling the frenetic and inauthenticity of ChatGPT.
Yes, of course.
So I asked ChatGPT, why does it do that? And it said, because, and it talked about all the data it has on human behavior. It knows that if it is affirming of what you believe, you're more likely to continue engaging. And it builds rapport with you. That's why it feels manipulative. So if you can actually sense that in ChatGPT, you'll sense that in a narcissist or a love bomber or just someone who's just who's bullshitting you.
Right.
So I think we're at an interesting time where, look, like 70% of the food that's ordered from restaurants is now ordered for takeout. So we're not even going to restaurants. We're getting our favorite. We're getting everything we want on our phone, and it's making everything convenient. But relationships are not convenient.
No, they're not. They're not.
Right. You have to build your capacity to be in discomfort, to be in disagreement. And I think we live in a culture, too, that does not model the capacity to disagree. Look at politics. Look at any ideology.
You cannot disagree.
Any ideology is like you're either this or you're that. You're either black or white, you're blue or red or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And we need to build bridges back. But bridges back to each other means being with the discomfort of disagreement and difference. But every culture, everything in humanity, everything in nature is made better through diversity, right?
Yeah.
But why not diverse thought?
Yeah.
So we want everything else. And I'm just like, wow, how do we build our capacity to be with discomfort? Because the ability for relationships to last long term is they all go through the same cycle of rupture and repair.
Rupture and repair.
Right.
Yes.
That's the secret to long-term love.
That's what I always say. However you handle the ruptures in your relationship, that is the foundation of your, that's it right there. And I think that when people get to a certain point and the honeymoon is gone, the gloss and the shine is gone, this is now where everyone's dipping. And they're like, I'm back on the apps. They said something I didn't like. There was a typo in their text, whatever it was. I'm freaking out of here. And I'm not even exaggerating about that. I mean, it was literally that serious. So
that's wild.
It is really wild. And so I want to talk about this and your book, Liberated in Love. It's like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And, why are we not able to go deeper? Like, why can't we show up and be healthy? Why are people just like, I'm going back on the apps?
Well, what's below, you alluded to it earlier, is like whenever you love someone, you say yes to being hurt by them.
Oh, yes.
Like whenever you love someone, you're already actually preparing to grieve them because all relationships will end, right? You'll die, I'll die, we'll die. But either way, there is an ending. And I think a part of the problem with that we have with that is culturally, we're just not even good at confronting death. And so mortality as a general idea.
Yeah. I mean, look at what I just did when you said that. I was like, oh gosh. I'm like, no, Mark, please don't say that.
Right. And it's like the more you can grieve that work, the more you can love. Because now if you meet the same level of love that you had for that person, you now know you can walk yourself out of it. right? So that's part of the power of the grief is that you expand your capacity to hold love because they're the same.
Okay.
There's a saying that grief is love that has nowhere to go. But really,
Yes.
grief is just love,
Yeah.
right? Full stop. And, Ram Dass talks about how, like, when we fall in love with someone, we think that the person is the cause. But really, they're just waking up within you what already exists. They're just the tool, but you don't even need them. They just remind you that you have the capacity for it. Just like meditation could be the way, or prayer can be the way you find God or speak to God. But you can speak to God anyways. Those are just the vehicles,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
And so the idea of liberated love is that everything in your relationship is offering you material to become free. All the frictions, all the patterns, all the triggers, they're just material for you to heal. When you stay in the really narrow view that culture has, that relationship success is relationship longevity.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That's not
I did a
true.
Substack on this recently, right? Yeah, I read that. Yeah. Why are we celebrating anniversaries for people who like trudge through the 50 years?
I hate those memes when they have like a couple, 85-year-olds and they're like, oh, you're at 60 years of marriage. How did you do it? And they're like, well, back when we were young, we took relationships seriously. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, you hate each other.
Yeah, right.
But you took them seriously.
Right.
I think there's some truth to that, like when you can't leave, you weather and you learn.
Right.
But you always have to honor, this is that part of that type of relationship dynamic that I totally disagree with, which is relationship longevity is a measure of relationship success, but it is not relationship success. You could be with someone for 3 years and experience much more depth than someone of 80 years.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or someone of 60 years. And so being able to actually measure by transformation is way more of a sign. And so when you're in a relationship with someone, you have to prioritize telling the truth over being together, or otherwise you won't tell the truth.
Oh, Mark.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one to look at someone you really care about and just say the hard things.
Right.
And learning how to say the hard things to your partner for what, works for them or however you need to do it. It's also another thing. Communicating those things and being like, we need to have a real conversation right now.
Well, and
no matter what.
Right. And if you love someone and you don't tell them the truth, you're not loving them. Right? Like if you can't sit with and what happens is you expand your capacity for honesty and you actually make it that it is a core principle of how you relate.
Yeah.
That you will honor truth over everything. And that's such a beautiful place to get to, because if you tell your partner that you miss them or you don't like their behavior or you can't keep going the way things are, they already know that.
Right.
So there's a great line in Glennon Doyle's book, and it's quoting Elizabeth Gilbert, the author. And Elizabeth Gilbert says to her, there's no such thing as one-way liberation. If you're free, they are too. They just don't know it yet. And I think a lot about that. Like, if a relationship's not for you, it's not for the other person either.
Right.
How could it be?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't even work mathematically. It can't work.
Right.
I'm not even good at math. I know that does not work.
Are you not a math guy either? I'm not a math girly.
No, I'm not.
So how do we move from this like survival-based love to like honoring ourselves? Like I feel like we show up in these relationships and we want to make them work so much, and then we're just kind of staying in them in survival mode versus like really honoring ourselves and what our truth is. Like how do we do that?
Well, I do believe we're in a serious transition of a relationship. Like never have we had more information, right?
Yes.
About how to be good at
But is that bad?
Well, I think if you look at the world of psychology and therapy, we have more therapy and psychology talk we've ever had, and we certainly are not doing better on a mental health perspective.
You don't think we're doing better?
No.
Oh, okay.
Mental health is like in a cascade. And I think part of it is that the negative side of personal growth is that it can keep you perpetually stuck in never being enough. Right? So if everyone who turns towards personal growth or therapy is going because they're trying to resolve something.
Right.
Right.
But you can go to too much therapy and not do anything.
Well, exactly. So like if you're not actually changing your life, then it's just like you're just emotionally masturbating, like if you're not actually applying it to your life, right? So you're still perpetually living in the wound, but you get to tell people you're doing something about it.
You get to tell people, yeah.
Right. And then the other side of that is that when you turn towards it to fix something, that implies that something's broken. right?
Yes.
So at some point, you have to make the transition psychologically, so in your soul, whatever, where you go from I'm trying to fix something. Because look, your whole life, you're going to get feedback that you need to change things. I'm going to get that too. That's called growth.
Right.
That's not evidence of dysfunction. It's evidence of possibility. So at some point, we have to go from I'm going to therapy to resolve something to I'm going to actually grow and change.
Yeah.
So if you don't apply the things you learn, then you just stay circling the drain of your pain.
I think a lot of people do that. Like they just say, I'm going to therapy.
amazing.
I've been in therapy for 8 years, but there was no actual action taken at any point. We're just having a conversation. And that's it.
Well, that's why part of any transformative work is agreements on what you're going to do. Because if you're not held accountable to the change, you'll just keep. That's why you need a therapist or a coach who calls you on your shit.
I know.
Who's like, no, stop with the bullshit. Like, let's go. Do you want to be all that you could be or do you not? And if you don't want to be, I'm not the person for you.
Well, that's why I was so drawn to your work when I was laying there in the fetal position on the floor, crying my eyes out. And you were just like, well, are you going to abandon yourself? And I was like, okay, Mark, I won't.
We don't even know each other.
Yeah, I was like, why is he yelling at me like that?
Well, I think there's something so liberating about saying, like, even in the midst of your suffering, that you recognize your power.
Yeah.
And even in the suffering is evidence of your power. That's so paradoxical.
Yeah.
Because here you are grieving, and yet
Dying.
you've probably never felt more connected to yourself. And that's that descent that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm deeply rooted in the ground because I can't move. Grief will anchor you.
Ooh, yeah.
And it demands to be felt. And so I think this moment of transformation that's going on culturally is we have all this beautiful information. We all desire more from a relationship. Great.
Right.
Now, how do we build it? And we have to stop seeing that when you grow, people go, like I'll hear people say this all the time, like I did some of your work and then now, like I just can't seem to find as many matches. I'm like, that's great. You shouldn't be a match for more people.
Because they're being more discerning.
Right.
Ah, okay.
So they see it as like, well, why am I not, quote unquote, manifesting my partner or da-da-da-da-da? I'm like, you should have less choices.
Right.
You are a tighter fit now.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's actually evidence of that. And I think a lot of us hit an upper limit of like we can, for example, you'll hear someone say like, yeah, no one just meets my standards.
Yes.
Right. But what happens is a lot of the time standards are just walls. So I always ask people like, are your standards walls? And they're like, they can feel into it. They know if that's true or not. And so they can start to see where they're just using these standards as ways to keep people out.
Okay, versus the other person who's doing the work with discernment, like what's the difference between the two? If you have the standards versus you're doing the work and seeing that there aren't matches.
Yeah, so if you have standards that are walls, it's a way to block, so it's avoidance.
Got it.
And then you get to tell people, well, I have these standards, and they just don't meet them.
They don't meet
But
them.
really what you're doing is unconsciously trying to keep people away. Then you have the other side where people are just letting everyone in, right? And so that type of person actually needs to learn more discernment in their choice. That kind of person needs to, instead of labeling everyone their soulmate or their twin flame or whatever.
You don't like those labels.
I don't mind them, but what I see as soulmate is really anyone who helps in your evolution. So like,
That could be anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And so
just
it doesn't
one
have to be a romantic partner. It could be your best friend. It could be,
Oh,
right?
you're saying it's soulmate and your best friend.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so imagine if that you see someone, as soon as you give them a label and then you tell your friends, I met the one, you're now going to be unconsciously dedicated to making it work out because you already told everybody.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, right? So then now they're all like, how's the one? And you're like, he's not great. Yeah.
Everything's great.
And so if you can actually come with the idea, like allow someone to earn that in the early dating process, they're not given a title. They have to be evidence of the potential
How do you
of being
do that though?
So we talk about in the book this idea of the right pace and the right space.
Okay.
So whenever you bring two people together, you have two people's experiences relationally, right? You have their two worlds, their cultures, whatever shapes them,
yeah.
right? The movies they've watched, all of it. And so you have two different people, and two different people, especially let's say one's more prone to anxiety and one's more prone to avoidance. Really whenever anyone uses attachment style dialogue like words,
Yep.
I always say really what you're talking about is someone's relationship to space. So someone who's more prone to anxiety, they're not anxiously attached. They're just prone to anxiety when they sense insecurity.
That'd be me.
Right. And so what happens is space causes you to become triggered.
Yes, I think something's wrong. I'm like, what are
Exactly.
you talking about?
Right.
Where are you going?
And an avoidant person, space a lack of it is dangerous. So space to you is dangerous. Space to them not having it is dangerous. So what happens is they're really relating to the space between them. And the way that they orient to relational insecurity is they just respond differently. One chases and the other one runs.
Right.
Right. And so both have injuries. We tend in the sort of pop culture conversation demonize the avoidant. And a lot of time avoidants are called narcissists and all the things.
And the anxious gets cradled like,
right. Oh, it must be so hard to love all out.
I know. You
and
just
not be discerning and put yourself in
and
horrible
have no boundaries.
Relational situations.
Yeah.
That's why my conversation has always been like, yo, you're still responsible for what you choose.
And you said that to me, and I was like, oh my God, okay, relax.
You're like, calm down.
Calm down.
And the avoidant is usually kind of hung out to dry. Like, you guys are screwed. But they're not. They just have a different way of relating that is trying to protect them from being enmeshed, engulfed, having to take over other people's feelings, all that, be abused. Right? There's lots of different reasons.
I never was able to really look at it in a positive way.
It's hard.
You hear avoidant, you're like, you're an asshole.
You're like, I can't be compassionate to this.
Yeah.
You don't even want love.
Yeah, you don't want to hang out with me every single day, all the time, then something's wrong with you.
Right?
Right.
And that's why a lot of the conversation on social media validates that perspective, because there's more anxious people on social media.
So many
It just makes sense,
people.
right? Because they're all like, oh, I tried to love and he didn't want to and she didn't want to. But I do think there's a switch happening now where women seem to be becoming more avoidant and men becoming more anxious.
Right? Like it's shifting. And with the narrative that's coming out right now about it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend, it's just like, keep the walls up. But I wanted to ask you, we talked about this a little bit earlier, like two anxious people get together, one becomes avoidant. What happens if two avoidants come together? Does somebody turn? They
just don't. Because they just don't text each other back. They might as friends with benefits or situationships, and that can work.
Yeah.
But one of them will default to being more anxious.
And then the relationship you're saying it'll switch maybe.
One of them will for sure switch.
Okay.
The less detached one, the one who's like more connected to that they're using avoidance as a relational, like a strategy to avoid relationships.
Right.
Both of them are doing that. It's just one is less deep in the avoidance strategies.
Right.
So eventually they develop feelings, because of course you do when you're intimate with people. That's biologically by design.
You just do. I love when people are like, oh, I don't feel anything. I'm like, you're a liar. Yes,
that's called disassociation.
Yes.
So that's nothing to brag about.
It's really not.
Again, like, I have no problem with people being intimate and creating agreements around intimacy,
do whatever you need to do.
Amazing. Just be honest about it, because eventually one person is likely, almost always, going to develop feelings.
Almost always.
And what are the agreements about when that might happen? How do we handle that? Because, I remember back in the day when I was more into the friends with benefits types of circumstances, I remember...
Can't do it. Ooh, I freak out.
I mean, I loved it. It was great.
I did not.
But I was more on the avoidance side, so it's great for me.
Here you go, Mark.
I got to control the depth of intimacy. I was always honest. I was always very clear. But what was really interesting is I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had said to me, "What do you call integrity?" And I was like, where's this going? Okay.
Excuse me?
And he's like, if you wanted a relationship from her, would she want one from you? And I was like, yeah, she would. And he's like, so what's integrity? He's like, so you now have admitted to me that you know that she would want a relationship if you wanted one. So you know that she is actually lowering her bar to meet you.
Oh my gosh.
And you're unconsciously taking advantage of that. And I was like,
I love that you just said this, because I was going through this kind of thing with a friend of mine who's doing this exact thing. And because you're honest and you tell women X, Y, and Z, but he's really charming and kind of does the boyfriend thing, but is like, oh, well, I'm not going to be your boyfriend. I'm going to do all the things and show up, but I'm not your boyfriend. And that's on you because I'm telling you the truth. So I love that you said, what is integrity?
Well, technically it is on the other person because they're consenting to the transparent information.
Yeah.
But what's unconsciously happening generally with the person I was that I was taking advantage of women who desired more.
Yeah. Well, these
now,
women
even saying
do.
taking, of course they do.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's doing all the other things. So it's like an unconscious way of mind fucking people.
Yes.
Right. Which I wasn't doing it deliberately or from a place of, being negative.
Right.
It was unconsciously I was doing it. But once it was made conscious,
exactly,
I couldn't do it anymore. And then I realized, oh, wait, I have played such mental gymnastics with this, and I have the ability to dance in the nuance of language that I was like, wow, I'm afraid of intimacy because like ultimately I was controlling the depth of the relationship, right? And I started to see like whenever one person is deciding the level of communication, the level of intimacy, the level of connection, the level of commitment, it instantly creates this power dynamic and it will activate a wound in the other person.
Right.
I used to be more anxious. I became much more avoidant because what happened when I got betrayed is that I unconsciously made betrayal mean that when I love people, they hurt me.
Yeah, I love your thing. If you let people love you, they yes, and then leave me.
Yeah, mine was betray me, lie to me. If I love people, I betray myself.
Oh, right.
I lose
on the
myself.
Other side. Yeah.
And so those are horrible outcomes. So I'll
Yeah.
just control everything so I don't end up there. I'll be able to control the level of intimacy and connection that I can lose.
Wow.
Yeah, and then what happens
That's like a lot of work.
Well, it is unconsciously a lot of work
Right.
to try to avoid actually falling in love with people
Yes.
because inevitably you always bump up against the edge of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's when we start to, like for your friend, when you start to actually acknowledge that you're doing that as a protective mechanism, because really what's happening is these other people are, yes, consenting to it, and they might get on and be blamey of him, right?
Because eventually they're like, well, not even eventually, maybe a couple of days later, they're like, hey, I really like you. Like, and after intimacy,
Yeah.
I want this to go further. And then he'll say no.
I told you I didn't.
I told you I didn't. And then he knows, and then they continue, and then there's always some explosion, rupture, and the girl's like, I can't do this, you know?
Well, and I think this is a higher level of personal responsibility, what I'm about to say.
Okay.
And not everyone's into it, but I actually think everyone should be into it. It would prevent a lot of wounds, which is that the person who has the higher level of self-awareness actually has the onus on them to make the choice. So some people might go, well, some people might go, it's those women in this case.
Yep.
It's the women's job to actually honor that they want more and not consent to something like that.
Okay.
Sure, but they actually have less awareness of their own wound, right? Because as soon as he becomes aware, now it's deceptive. And so the onus is on the person who has the higher level of awareness.
I love that.
It's a totally different, like as soon as my friend said that to me, and my friend's not into personal growth.
Dang.
But he is apparently into relational savagery. Because when he said that to me, I was like, wow. All of a sudden I put on he gave me a pair of glasses. I could see my world differently.
And you can't unsee it after that.
I can't unsee it. You could throw away the glasses, but it's permanently implanted. You can't pretend you don't know what you know. You know, it's like being a fish who lives in an aquarium, learns about the ocean, and goes back to the aquarium and pretends they don't know.
I can't.
You can't. That's why you can't undo a lightning bolt to the heart. You can't undo an awareness. That's why if you continue to do a behavior that you know is causing you suffering, then you're actually harming yourself.
Yeah.
And then you'll be upset with the other people, but it's really you. And so for the women in those circumstances, if you're hearing this and this resonates with you, that you're like, oh, shit, this is on me now.
This is on me.
Like, I'm doing that. And I always say to people, like, there's a common cultural statement that you should always believe a person's actions over their words.
Okay. You don't believe that?
No, because he's treating them like a girlfriend.
Right.
And so if I give them that advice, they go, well, he must want more. And I'm like, no.
Oh, right. Yeah,
he does not want more. He wants just enough.
He wants just
enough. He wants fellatio. Right?
To be keeping it
right.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing to want. I get it. Yeah. It's a great thing to receive. But instead, you actually say, when someone's words and their actions don't match, regardless if actions are better or words, that's a red flag. And that's where you must go into curiosity. Okay, they say they don't want this, yet they treat me like they do. Believe actions. No, don't believe actions. The disconnect is the red flag.
The disconnect, right. And that can be really, really confusing to people because you're like, I'm seeing all this and feeling all this other thing over here. One of the other things I want to talk to you about is the intimacy versus intensity and like what that looks like at the beginning of a relationship. We had a conversation before the show about that for my own life and getting confused around what that means, like going deeper, or is this just intensity and my nervous system is reacting to it?
Yeah, a lot of the times people will say, I can't help it, I just have chemistry with this person.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, well, has chemistry ever drawn you to someone who's not good for you? And the answer is Almost always yes.
Nope, not for me.
Has it? Has it? Right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So if it has, then you know that what you call chemistry is also somewhat wounding. It's not intuition, right? So that's where we can start to differentiate that, like, so when you really become an adult in relationship.
An adult in a relationship and not your inner child.
When you're not going from like my parent was unavailable or my dad was da-da-da-da-da, that when you actually start to say, everything I'm drawn to doesn't mean I have to move towards it. Right?
Okay.
Like chemistry doesn't require choice. Like you don't just have to go towards it. And so when you take charge of that charge, when you finally say, okay, I have chemistry there, but I actually shouldn't move towards it.
Okay.
So what happens is you start to build choice. So there's a saying that the opposite of trauma is choice.
Yes.
Right? So often trauma is choice was taken from us. We didn't have a choice. So when we start to make choices, we start to heal.
Right. And go into that space where you're not used to and working through that discomfort, right? Of making those choices.
Because if I don't pursue this person I have chemistry with, who I know isn't a good match and is just their actions and their words don't match, etc., they're a love bomb or they're whatever, that all of a sudden when I make the choice not to pursue it, I'm now in a space I've never been in, but I'm in the space I always longed for. So let's say my mom was unavailable. And so I'm drawn to people who tend to have that unavailability. And I have chemistry with them, crazy chemistry, because I'm eroticizing my wound. So what happens is my nervous system is used to the chaos, the discomfort. I code love as uncertainty. Right? So I have this whole framework from my relationship with my mother. When I finally say I'm not going to go towards that, I actually give myself the maternal presence I desired. Yeah. And so essentially I become my own mother. And this is that, parenting
your inner child. Right? Yes. Yeah.
And so when you finally do that, you end up in a space that you've likely never been in or very rarely been in. And so you start to grieve what you didn't have.
By making that choice.
Yes. So you think you're grieving them, but you're really grieving that you didn't have the present mother in this case, right? Yeah. And so you start to actually experience what it means to have an adult with you who's like, I got you.
Like, to yourself.
Yeah, you shouldn't be around dangerous people. You shouldn't be around people who are unreliable. I will never let you be exposed to that. That's not chemistry. That's your longing for me. And you're not going to long for me anymore. I'm here. Right? And a great exercise, it's from Mark Willin, is when you feel that dysregulation, you actually put a hand on your gut and a hand on your heart, and you just say, I'll continue to breathe with you until we become one. And what happens...
Such an intimate thing to do with yourself. I bet most people are like, I can't do that.
Well, after 5 or 6 breaths, you actually start to feel the alignment. You start to feel the integration because the adult is with the child. And so from a nervous system perspective, you're regulating and you're saying the thing you always wanted. So that frenetic split that makes you want to go after them starts to calm. And then you don't even desire it. Now, you have to do that a lot first because, you've always gone after that thing.
Well, yeah, because you're like, we have chemistry. This is working. And then the other part, it's, can I life with this person? And I remember for me, those questions were just not even a thing. I was like, we have chemistry. He's cute. What are you doing on Thursday?
Right.
And really, that's it.
We are lifing.
We're lifing.
And once you start, you can't stop.
That is for sure.
I used to think that, if I was dating someone, then I guess, it can't end it. I guess the train's left the station.
Did you text me back? Because I love you too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you notice in all of those scenarios is a lack of discernment. Like that whatever you choose your way into, you could choose your way out of. And if you can't choose your way out of it, then you don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
And so that at the end of the day, there's a few questions that people are asking unconsciously anyways. The first one is, if I need you, will you be there?
Right.
Right? That's what everyone's asking about everybody. All the time.
If I need you, will you be there? Okay.
Yeah. And so if someone's not reliable, your nervous system is going to not trust them. And then you'll call it anxiety and want to figure out how to fix it, but you can't fix what is unreliable. That has to be resolved in the relationship, not in yourself.
Yeah.
And so when we go into the fix me to accommodate the environment, then we go into a frenetic space with ourselves because we're going, what's wrong with me that I can't trust this person or I can't... But I'm going, like I said at the beginning, what's right with you?
Yeah, you're saying trust yourself more. Yes. Right.
Because even if someone's about to get married and they're anxious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we go, oh, you shouldn't be anxious. Like, what are you doing? Like, no, you're good. You're getting married.
You
It
got
makes
cold
sense.
feet, it's fine.
Instead, what we do is go, let's talk about your anxiety. What is brilliant about it? Why is it coming up? What is not resolved? Because for a lot of the times, like really the emotions that come up in dating are because you're picking up on something that if you want to build a long-term relationship with someone, you have to resolve.
You have to resolve.
You have to.
Because this idea in a long-term relationship that everything's like going to feel perfect. Are you saying that? Not perfect, but like you shouldn't have that anxiety like being in a long-term.
You will have anxiety in a long-term
Right.
relationship.
Yes.
Like 100%.
Right.
You know, because there's going to be so many different iterations of you and your partner. You're
Right.
going to have kids. Your life's going to change. You're going to have,
But you have to resolve
family
it.
stuff. You're going to have work stuff. You're going to have so many things.
Yeah.
And so it's not about getting to a place where none of that happens, because that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, of course.
It's about how do we turn towards it?
Turn towards it, right?
Yeah.
Because we usually just go into our phones, we go watch the football game, and
We drink.
we drink.
We TikTok. We do everything. If you think about it, everything that's sold to us is a distraction from being present with the things that we need to resolve. Like social media is an incredible tool, but it also is an incredibly distracting thing. There are trillions of data points on humans, and there are thousands of behavioral scientists whose whole job is to actually colonize the present moment. That is the whole job. And that's why I'm not saying like social media is the devil, but I am saying if you are avoidant of yourself, if you are not in alignment and in integrity with yourself, if you're not having hard conversations, that's exactly what it's designed to do, is hook into that. And there's this YouTuber named Bo Burnham who has this famous clip where he says, they colonized all the land, and now they're coming for every second of your life.
Dang.
And when you realize that, that's why I don't say this to cause anyone like dissonance or suffering.
No, but it's true.
I say it so you can just know that you need to be in choice about how technology impacts you and how it plays in your life. Is it a tool? Because I could hand you a hammer and you could build a house, right?
Yeah.
Or you could hurt someone.
Right.
And so it's the same idea. This isn't the demonization of it. It is, how do we want to live with it? How do we want it to be? Because if the last thing you touch at night is your phone, it's not going to be your wife. And so we need to be with that the most important relationship in our lives right now is our phones generally.
Yep.
And it's actually deeply harming the actual most important relationships in our lives. And your biology, you can't deny it. We live in a technological world. Technology is advancing faster than biology. But you have a nervous system. And your nervous system was not designed to have a version of you online 24 hours a day. Like if you have a profile on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, name the platform.
Yeah.
Your nervous system is thinking, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And the data shows this, that like if they took people who were strangers at a coffee shop and they said, have a conversation in like a cafe kind of setting. And they then asked them about the conversation. For the people who had their phones present, just sitting.
Yeah.
They rated the conversation as feeling less connected. And they also found that they felt less empathic concern from their conversation partner.
Oh.
And that's because when a phone's present, unconsciously we're thinking, you're thinking about your phone because I'm thinking about mine.
Right.
And I'm thinking about this other world and not fully in this world.
Right.
That's why there's a very big difference between putting your phone on airplane mode or in your pocket and leaving your phone somewhere. Because by it not even being with you,
it does change everything. It literally changes everything. Mark, you've been so amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for being here. I really love your no bullshit approach because it absolutely changed my life. Is there anything you want to leave my viewers with and let people know where they can find you?
First, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And I'm so honored that, I think for your viewers to say, like, when I left that relationship at 27 and dove deep into wanting to understand relationships, it got me to a place where I felt this deep call to start writing and teaching. And who was I to do that and say and da-da-da-da-da. That path led me to create a video that you eventually saw that helped you.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I mean, it really did.
everybody has to trust that the seeds that are being planted in their life and the calls that they're feeling towards are because there's someone who needs what they have to teach or say or do, their art, whatever it is, their coffee shop. There's someone who needs it. And when they go to look for it and you're not there because you don't pursue your dreams, that is a disservice to the role you have in humanity. And so to trust that, to just trust the call that you have. And that is the greatest thing you could do for yourself. And it's the greatest thing you could do for your relationship. Like, no one benefits from you not pursuing the thing you're most called for. And we think it's going to keep all our relationships better. But at the end of the day, what we're really saying is the conflict I'm avoiding outside of myself, I'm just going to internalize and swallow.
Wow.
Yeah. And
thank you for that. And I just got goosebumps. Yeah, I think I needed to hear that for sure.
Well, I'm excited for what's going on for you.
Yeah.
There's some big stuff.
TBD. But let us know where we can find you. And thank you again so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. You can find me at the Mark Groves podcast, markgroves.com, Create the Love on Instagram, and I can't wait to see you there.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Don't forget, this is the place for the hot mess expresses and the black sheeps of love. I'm Drea Renee, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.